$2,202.78. This amount and any other additional fees will be collected from the remaining Cambria Hills escrow balance of $28,845.38. Senator Michelle Benson spoke at the Chamber of Commerce meeting on October 14th, 2021. Senator Benson was asked about the Cambria Hills closure. Senator Benson told the Chamber that the Cambria Hills business model, the lack of eligible funding for a business of their size and tax status and their corporate debt, prevented the Department of Health and Human Services participation for additional assistance to address their financial situation. Senator Benson informed the Chamber that DHHS has had discussions with Aurora Plains, a psychiatric residential treatment facility based in Plankington, South Dakota, as a potential operator for this facility, and the details on this would be released at a further date. So that's where we are with the Cambria Hills activity report and efforts to put in a similar operator in that facility.
I had to leave that meeting early, but I'm going to imagine that Mr. Butler might have asked a question or two.
I asked that question.
Okay.
Yeah, it seemed as though the presentation went on quite a while, so I didn't want to drag the meeting out, but there were a lot of unanswered questions that possibly should continue to be addressed about moving forward, what the options are, along with some other local facilities that might be interested as well. So I think those probably would be better addressed at a different forum.
Okay. So we wait and see.
Dan asked a question and I asked a question too, and I don't think that they were addressed in just very, very generalized terms. There were no specifics given, so hopefully this lead with this Aurora Plains is something that could be productive, and hopefully Certus is working with some people that'll give us some leads here in the future. So I agree with Dan's assessment of Mrs. Benson's response.
The city's not under any constraints as far as timing goes and anything that needs to be on an accelerated pace. It seems like things are happening and discussions are being had between Certus and other organizations.
That's correct. As we do not own the facility, then it's up to the receiver to negotiate on behalf of their trustees and investors. And hopefully the Department of Health and Human Services will be attempting to locate one in conjunction with their efforts.
Helping to prod the discussion. Good.
Yeah, when we met with them initially, we made it clear that, you know, if there's anything you need from the city, is not to hesitate to contact us. So it's, yeah, there's nothing being held back from our side for sure. So
I would certainly hope I see the situation, the conditions, I guess, that Senator Benson brought up that prevented help being made towards Cambria Hills. And I understand that. I mean, I don't know if anyone saw that the facility in Duluth just got bought by the Archdiocese up there, some people to make a new Catholic high school in Duluth. But anyway, to get back to this, with this, whatever caused that situation so that they were in financial distress, I would certainly hope that the situation gets vetted out with anyone else coming in so that we don't have this happen again, because there's nothing worse than being the only thing worse than being a two-time loser is a three-time loser.
and, you know, and I agree, and I can understand the explanation there. The only problem that doesn't sit right with me on that explanation is this is something that Cambria Hills was requested before they even broke ground. So it's made it seem like their decision is based on all these other things that were at the end of the line, whereas they needed this funding 2 years ago, you know. So, you know, it's a state issue, it's not a local issue. But like you said, if, you know, it was broke for Cambria Hills, And if it's broke for them, hopefully they fix it, you know, this model gets fixed for the next operator, so. I agree.
There was also the mention that DHHS did not want to intervene in this because they thought it would set a precedence. To me, this was a highly unique situation. I think you could make a definite case that this was an unusual situation caused by COVID-19. It was the main instrument in the failure of the business to succeed, and everybody can interpret that the way they want to, but that was another matter that was thrown out at the meeting.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you for that. If there's no more discussion, we'll move on to item 5, business activity report.
Panagold Country Hearth, 18542 Ulysses Street, and Aggressive Hydraulics, 18800 Ulysses Street. All the footings and walls are in for Panagold. I talked to the construction firm. They say they're on schedule, and the project is still scheduled for completion by March 2020. Essentially the same situation exists for Aggressive Hydraulics, except they are currently under roof. They're on schedule, and completion is anticipated by March of 2022. As far as Quick Trip goes, the site preparation is essentially complete for their pad, and building construction is still scheduled for the spring of 2023. Elevage First Edition, the developer is preparing to submit the second edition plans by the end of 2022. There are some setbacks with him for some family reasons, so I think he's getting ready to get that geared up, and hopefully we'll see some movement on that very soon. East Bethel Village Apartments Phase 2, the developer is hoping to have the building complete by December 2021. Staff is working with the developer to complete items such as parking lot lighting, landscaping, playgrounds, as-built, and finalize the building for their certificate of occupancy. Building permits. The city has issued 38 single-family home building permits through September 30th, 2021. The city has issued 40 single-family home building permits in 2020, which was the highest total since 2006. So we should exceed that number by the end of this month, 2 months to go. So it's still been a good year for residential construction in the city. Anderson Meadows residential plat, we just discussed that earlier and approved the preliminary plat on conditions for some rezoning. The developer will proceed on the grading work there, but it will be at his risk until that rezoning plan gets approved. Developer contacts. Staff has been in contact with 2 developers that have shown interest on properties. The residential project on the east side of Highway 65, south of Viking Boulevard. These are kind of in the preliminary stages, and it's a little bit more than kicking the tires, but it's still in the investigative stages. Broadband meetings. Staff met with Midco on October 12, 2021 to update them on the status of their broadband internet service plan, discuss their 2022 expansion plans, and review opportunities for public-private partnerships for future projects. Midco is currently working with Finley Engineering in Benton County on their broadband plan and is very interested in working with the city of East Bethel in expanding and improving their system in the city.
Jack, I don't think the address is correct for Panagold because they're north of 187th.
Okay, I'll get that changed.
I think it's 18742.
Yeah, it probably is. It's not 185.
No.
Correct.
Thank you, Jack.
Can I also, on broadband, Jack, it appears that for the Anderson Meadows plat and also for the 213th Street, north of Anderson's property, that I believe Midco ran high-speed internet along there in anticipation of possible future broadband needs.
I think they do have high-speed internet up to 217th Avenue,
Okay,
and it terminates at that point. So
Okay.
this will be served by that extension.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other discussion, we'll move on to item 6, broadband internet service plan.
Thank you, Tom. As we did not have an EDA meeting last September, we did conduct have the broadband interview panel interview the 3 respondents to our RFP. I'd just briefly like to go over that process real quick to fill everybody in on how that occurred and see if anyone has any questions. The city council approved the advertisement for proposals of a broadband internet service plan at the May 24th, 2021 council meeting. City requests for proposals were sent to 20 consultants and posted on the League of Minnesota Cities and East Bethel website. The city received 3 responses to the request. The 3 respondents met the qualification of the RFP, and 2 of the 3 worked locally or in other locations in Minnesota. The firm that did not list a Minnesota client does have an office in St. Paul and had performed extensive work in Iowa. City Council approved the invitation of all 3 respondents to be interviewed. Council also directed the use of a committee to perform the interview and evaluation. Council directed that the committee would consist of 2 council members, 2 EDA members, and 3 other advisors with experience in broadband internet systems and internet delivery infrastructure. City council members appointed to the committee were Brian Mundell and Suzanne Urkel, along with EDA members Brian Bezanson and Catherine Landcrane. The advisors selected for the panel were Jana King, Economic Development Service, Samantha Markman, AC Red with Anoka County, and Dan LeConte, Anoka County Deputy IT Director. The broadband interview panel interviewed the firms of H.R. Green, Finley Engineering, and Design 9 on September 20th, 2021. The interview consisted of a 25-minute presentation of the company's proposal, followed by a 30-minute question and answer session with the panel. At the conclusion of the interviews, the panel reviewed the proposals and recommended Finley Engineering as the consultant best met the requirements of the RFP and had the most experience in dealing with municipalities of our size and demographics. Estimated time to complete the plan would be approximately 4 months. References from both municipal clients and professional associates were good for all firms, with Finley Engineering receiving the most consistent satisfaction and endorsement ratings. Based on the recommendation of the broadband interview panel, the City Council approved the selection of Finley Engineering for consulting services and directed staff to engage in contract negotiations with the firm. It is anticipated that the contract for this service will be presented to council at their October 25th, 2021 meeting. Finley's cost for the preparation of the plan as presented in the RFP was $61,000. EDA funds are available and are appropriate for a broadband internet plan for the city of up to $80,000. This is just an update on the process, and I'm here to answer any questions if anybody has any regarding the interviews and the selection. And I'd like to thank all the participants that approved in this because the meeting was approximately 5 hours long. It was a long interview with lots of discussion afterwards, and then a preliminary meeting before to brief the panel on the ratings and how the meeting would be conducted. So, Brian and Catherine, thank you for your time on that.
So they were here for 5 hours, Jack, and they're only getting $20 a meeting, so would they be underpaid according to minimum wage standards for the cities? The state, isn't it $7 an hour or something?
I think they would.
Oh,
We thank you for your service.
thank you.
I thought the interviews went very well. And 1 was 1 and 2 was just a little bit behind and 3 was farther behind. And we were all, as a interview panel, we were all unanimous in how we had them ranked. So it was, actually it was pretty easy. There was no hair splitting. It was,
Well, it was a good process, because, you know, when this came to council was very comfortable with what was presented, and it was an easy decision for us as well, so.
Yeah, we also had some very good consultants that came in, and they were very knowledgeable
absolutely,
and offered a whole lot to the selection process.
yeah,
They made it easy.
yeah. It really got winnowed down in a hurry.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's a tremendous amount of work in preparing for more work, so we want to give a special thank you to Brian and Catherine on our team, as well as all those on the council and others with the cities who have worked on this project and put this information together. We look forward to seeing what comes next. Thank you for all that information, Jack. Let's move on to item 7, broadband grants.
In May 2021, the Anoka County Board of Commissioners allocated $3.15 million in American Rescue Plan dollars to support local broadband projects. It's really not a coincidence that there are 21 municipalities in Anoka County, and the grant funds were $3,150,000, and the grant cap was $150,000. Essentially what the county's done is they're saying there's $150,000 available to each municipality in Anoka County. If you don't want to use these funds, you can by resolution notify the county, and these funds can be used then by other cities who may have a need for them. At the October 12, 2021 County Board meeting, the board authorized the publication and the application of frequently asked questions to their ARPA broadband funding program. The summary for their program is that communities can apply for a maximum of $150,000 per project on a 50-50 matching basis. Communities that do not have a need for broadband funding may pass a resolution that their $150,000 appropriation be added back into the program's budget for additional projects where support is needed. Any excess dollars that are returned via resolution will be eligible for secondary projects up to $150,000 matching funds on a first-come, first-served basis. All projects will need to be in full compliance with the U.S. Department of Treasury's guidelines and requirements. Based on staff's discussions with Midco on October 12, 2021, there may be projects that could be considered as a public-private partnership venture in 2022 that would be eligible for this grant. Midco will provide costs for these projects that they have identified, and we can evaluate the feasibility of the extensions. The project service areas are Jenkins Street between Briarwood and Deerwood Lane, Gopher Drive between 229th Avenue and Cedar Creek, and Klondike Drive from Meadows Street west a quarter of a mile. Should the city be eligible to apply and be approved for this grant, the source of the matching funds would need to be identified, and assessment or other fund recovery procedures would have to be established to reimburse the city's direct costs for the match. This is something the grant applications have to be in, I believe, it's a very, very flexible date. I believe it's December of 2023. I think one of the first things we're going to need to do if we want to pursue this is to notify Anoka County that we are interested in the application, and then we have to find a way to come up with the matching source of the funds. This is a pretty good start. In our discussions with Midco seemed to be very interested in partnering with the city to do some of this stuff. They were very thankful that we brought them into the loop and let them know what we're doing on the broadband level with the consultant study. So I'm just kind of looking for some direction from the EDA as to if we want to go ahead and apply for one of these grants initially and make a recommendation to city council for their consideration to begin negotiations or discussions with Anoka County to see what we need to do for one of these $150,000 grants.
So Jack, in our discussions with Midco in the past, they've indicated that they have a criteria on when they would put in lines, basically how many homes per mile, right?
Correct.
So with these areas or whatever areas we select, can't we use Midco's investment as the matching grant? Like, I'll just make it simple example. If there's a neighborhood and, you know, it costs $300,000 to put line into this neighborhood, and with their criteria, Midco would normally invest 150 grand. Isn't that the matching grant, or our matching portion would be Midco's investment?
That's a very good question. It possibly could be, and we can,
Because we're not using city dollars.
we can certainly find that out. That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would find out that
If one
level
could
of
follow.
commitment from Midco first before we
Well-
set $20, but.
On these three areas that we just mentioned, Midco is they've done some preliminary costs. They're gonna try to refine those and get those numbers to us as soon as possible. None of them meet their current criteria. They are in their planning stages. So I'm hoping we can get something back from them fairly soon and, you know, find out from Anoka County what we need to do to submit them to get our name in the pot for this.
So the three neighborhoods you have listed, is that something Midco provided, or did we just look it up? Or?
No, Midco provided that, and, you know, we'll look at the bigger map, which is kind of hard to follow, but this is the best map we got. You and I had a discussion about getting Midco to provide a map. When they were here with us on the 12th, they did bring some displays, which goes down to the lot level, which shows everything from their lines to their nodes to,
They can't share that with us.
I asked them if they could, and they claim it's proprietary information.
Mhm.
So,
It'd be nice to have it as a GIS layer, so.
no, it certainly would be, but they would not, they said they would work with us on getting us some other maps, but they could not share what they showed with us. It was kind of interesting. This is one area. This is the Jenkins Street area. This is off Briarwood, and it's very close to Highway 65. We updated them on some developments that may be occurring here in hopefully the near future. They weren't aware.
Catherine might know that area.
Yeah, I think she does.
And I have neighbors I can see that are connected. So it's frustrating to have neighbors that are connected and you're not connected. But
I understand, and, you know, we asked them about that particularly, Catherine, and what they told us here is this is Jenkins Street, and there's two cul-de-sacs. I think in this area, there's about 20 to 24 houses. But they said this whole area is fed from the east going west along Deerwood. And when they get to the end of the line here, there's two houses in this subdivision that I believe are served, what they showed us, maybe three. But they say when they get to the end of the line there, it's old copper wire, so they're at the end of their capacity. So if they extend it on out, they're not gonna have the capabilities to provide adequate service from that. So what they would be looking at would either be an improvement from here or greens coming in from the west. So, you know, they say some of this potential area in here or down in here would be a strong incentive for them to look at that. But they say this is one of their future projects, and, you know, maybe something like this could accelerate it. The same way with the Klondike project. They're fed from Klondike coming in off East Bethel Boulevard, going to the west, but it's old wire, old copper wire, so they only have the capability on that to serve this subdivision right here. And beyond this, they don't have enough capacity in that existing infrastructure to provide the service.
Earlier,
That's Sodfield.
Jack, earlier this year, and I don't know if it was Midco or Quest or Xfinity or whoever it was, but somebody was laying high-speed internet cable along East Bethel Boulevard.
And
I mean, they had the big rolls out there and they had
That
the,
was Midco.
yeah,
okay,
and they may have been, but I don't think they came up this direction because this is the way it's fed. But,
okay.
and you said this is, this isn't sod fields here, Brian. There's 4 homes here. I know one resident here that actually works from home and had a lot of difficulty during the shelter in place issues. But this is another one that they're looking at. And then the other one is up here on Gopher Drive. There's service in here to this point, and there's nothing up here. There's 4 more homes here. The thing about the county grant is that they say they're gonna favor larger projects, but they could even fund a project that just served 1 home or 1 business. It's all gonna be kind of on a case-by-case basis. So I think there's gonna be some good flexibility in that.
Is there any possibility with the county funding for what we've already approved to be a part of that? You know, I mean, this study we're already doing, is there any possibility of?
Well, no, I think that there is. That's one of the grant sources we'll be looking at, because this money has to be spent by December of 2023. You can't incur any cost. The earliest cost to be incurred was March of 2021. So I think as soon as the county's notified, and we will check this out, that East Bethel is going to do a grant application to make sure that we're one of the cities that indicates to them that we want the funds. I think the funds are set up to reserve $150,000 per municipality. Then we can go with that and kind of get on the list. Hopefully we'll get everything back from the city attorney on this contract for the consultants and be able to award that on the 25th, and that can be some of their recommendations. Or if we have to go quicker than that, which I don't think we will, we can probably work directly with Midco on seeing what they can do, what their costs are, what it would take to supplement them to do these extensions.
I mean, I think Midco wants to do these projects and things. I think it's a matter of hooking it up, and there is a challenge here because of our ruralness, obviously, because every community is different, and, as we get higher up in East Bethel, it gets harder to connect all these things out, but it's so frustrating to be able to see homes that have this and not have this ability, and for those of us who don't have access to something like Comcast, it's just crazy to not have better speed.
They just need to put a booster on their wireless antenna and give you the login key and you'd be all set to go.
Jack, could you speak a little to more of the selection process that Midco had for these 3 projects, and if there's other areas that they highlighted as potentials?
These were ones that have been kind of in their expansion plans for a while. Just all these areas in orange, and this is a map that was given to us in 2016. Now, there's still certain areas, pockets in these brown areas that are either unserved or underserved. But these orange areas, this is the Oak Brook Acres subdivision, which is off Durant Street. This project has been completed. This area right here is the 201st Stutt Street. This is where Tim lives. That area was just completed just a couple months ago. This area is a project that they're probably going to do next year. This is Naples Street and 196th.
But that's what they were working on this summer.
Well,
That's what Dan referred to,
No,
East Bethel Boulevard.
well, it was up further though.
But this is a subdivision off there. There's 3 or 4 of them in here. This was an area that they're going to do.
Off 199th, right?
Yeah, they definitely have
I'm
this one
sorry, you're right.
scheduled.
Okay.
Meadows of Fish Lake has been done.
Eric's happy.
This is the Gopher Drive project that they've identified. But these are all, and they do have schedules, and some of these things are scheduled out in advance, which I was happy to know that they were doing some advanced planning on that. But there have been several on these orange areas that have now been completed, and the others are kind of next up in the schedule. And, you know, some of them are waiting, like in your area down here, if it weren't for grant funds or something we could probably do, then it would be triggered by probably some development that's going to occur on Doug Osmond's property. Because they say they're almost there to where they can meet their criteria without having to charge the customers the difference between their cost and what they have to have.
Right, right. I had neighbors who were offered, and they were told it was going to cost them a fee of thousands of dollars, and then in the end, Midco never billed them. So, I don't know if somehow the fee was absorbed or they realized they just had the benefit out of it. But there certainly is incredible interest in people getting connected.
Jack, you said Midco is going to provide cost estimates for these three. Is it possible to get cost estimates for all of the
All
spots?
their scheduled ones.
I'm sure it is, and that'll be, what we don't have for there will be part of the study that we're going to do.
Okay.
In the development of the infrastructure plans, there'll also be cost estimates of that. So we'll have that information in one form or fashion probably within the next 6 months.
Okay, but I'm thinking in terms of selecting which
Yeah.
areas. I appreciate
Yeah.
Midco provided three, but
Are those the
I
three
think it's
that
our
we decided?
priorities too, we
Yeah.
need to be considered too, so.
Jack, it says that the application needs to be submitted by December 31st of 2023, completed by December 31st of 2024. That seems like an awfully long window for the application. Maybe not, considering it's October of '21, but my thought on it is, based on the fact that there might be some municipalities that reject their money and put it back into the pot, it would be to have an additional application ready to go if more funds become available, because it said first come, first serve. First come, first served basis, so I don't know.
No, I agree, and I think we need to get the process started with Anoka County as soon as possible, so we can notify them that we are definitely interested in applying for at least the minimum of the $150,000 grant, and then indicate that there may be other areas too that we'd be interested in if there are funds available. You know, getting back to your question and statement about the grant application and deadline due, that's based on the federal guidelines. This ARP money had a broader window of anything that's been done before. The CARES money had to be done in 8 months. This was spread out over 3 to 4 years. Of course, we're talking about quite a bit more money too.
Right.
Well, spend it what you can now, and then show the need, you know.
So would the matching funds come from the general budget, the general funds, or would it come from EDA or HRA or?
Well, that's what we would have to take a look at and discuss, and what I'm proposing to do, and I'll have it to council, we'll discuss it at the next meeting, is to discuss this at a work meeting, just to kind of get up to speed on it and kind of get some discussion started on where it might come from.
How soon is Midco gonna get cost estimates too?
I'll get up with them and see what we can do to expedite it, but they said they had a lot of them done, or they were working on them,
Okay.
so I'll see if we can get them as soon as possible.
Because it's gonna be difficult to start a discussion on funding if we don't know what the costs are,
Yeah.
so.
But I
Well-
imagine they have some sort of an idea of what it costs if these are high on their schedule.
Yeah, so.
Was this anticipated in the budgeting discussions for 2022?
No, it was not.
Okay,
We just got word of this here last week, so.
okay. Would there need to be any changes before, or is that completely put to bed before? I thought there could be changes up until a certain time
There
frame.
can, but they can only be deductions.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks.
Good, thank you. Any other discussion on this?
I think this is very encouraging, you know, we're getting some opportunities. And I think coupled with this study that we'll get will greatly enhance our capabilities to implement some of these projects and, you know, go forward and try to achieve some of the goals that we've set for improving this service in the city.
Mhm.
I agree. I also think that, you know, things like this would enhance. We have problems with people just even knowing where East Bethel is and all these things. And obviously Midco wants to do these expansions. So if we could kind of take advantage of this synergy, and if, you know, we're lucky enough to be able to apply and receive some of these funds, it would be wonderful, you know, just to have that enhancement and hopefully then that'll spur more things for the city too.
Good, thank you, Jack. Let's move on to item 8, city council report.
Heck, sort of a quiet month or two. Jack talked about Anderson Meadows residential development, that's in approval process. It's 10 residential lots on the east side. Council also went through, planning started, had a hearings for some zoning text changes, and it took a lot longer than you would think it would, considering we didn't really change a whole lot. But basically, it made some set up a new zoning district around Coon Lake, and because of the uniqueness of small lots, there's it accommodate basically smaller setbacks. And then it was also touched on this last week. The chamber had their semi-annual sunrise breakfast, so it was an opportunity to meet with the business owners and talk about what's going on in the city, what's going to happen, and so it was a nice event. So, and that's all I have. Brian, if you have anything to add, but
I don't think, not much. Our Sand Hill Parkway is just about finished, and we will be having a ribbon cutting on the 25th. Or is it the
29th,
29th?
Friday, right?
Yeah, Friday.
That hasn't changed?
The 20th.
No, I did get up with Craig today. He says he'll have to get up with Forest Lake Contracting. He wasn't able to get back to me by this afternoon, but in our previous discussions, they would not commit to saying the road was finished until their contract term
Okay.
was up. So I'll have something definite on that tomorrow, though.
Okay,
So
well,
that's a week from Friday.
Yeah.
Next
possibly
week,
on the 29th.
the road looks done, so.
Yeah, possibly on the 29th, might be rescheduled, but, so that's an exciting improvement, that another accomplishment that we can put under our belts, and then I suppose that will spur discussion on what next road should we do?
Yeah, what's next?
Yeah. So, other than that, have a safe, happy Halloween.
Okay.
Thank you. Hearing no more discussion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Good, thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Oh, let's vote. Aye.
He's in a hurry.